Well, welcome everyone to Door County Reads 2022 Festival. I'm Jared Santek, Artistic Director at Right On Door County. We're a proud partner of Door County Reads, and we are very happy to have you with us on this snowy Sunday afternoon for our songwriting workshop with Cathy Grier. Just a few housekeeping announcements before we begin the program. This program may touch on varying points of view. We thank you for being open to hearing others' opinions and participating in intellectual freedom in a respectful manner. And finally, we invite you to follow us at #DoorCountyReads. It's now my pleasure to introduce Cathy Grier, our presenter today. Cathy has more than a 4-decade-long music career, which includes opening for such acts as Laura Nyro, Joan Armatrading, and the band. She has lived in Key West, France, and New York. And in 2016, she received a call from Melanie Jane and Pat McDonald, inviting her to participate in the Steel Bridge Song Festival. As a result of that invitation, Cathy has now taken up full-time residency in Sturgeon Bay, and the Door County community is all the richer for her presence. Cathy is a founder of Open Door Pride and the annual Pride Festival in Martin Park. During the pandemic, Cathy released I'm All Burn, an amazing CD, which you can order through her website. In this coming May, Cathy and her band, The Troublemakers, will represent Wisconsin in the International Blues Challenge in Memphis. Please welcome Cathy Grier.
Thank you very much, Jared and Morgan. This is just amazing. I'm thrilled to be a part of this. As a writer, to be part of Door County Reads was such an honor to be asked to do something on songwriting, because it is a part of writing. And I want to thank you and Right On Door County, which is, we are very blessed in this county to have such an amazing organization like Right On, and also the strength of our library and Door County Reads is really quite wonderful for anybody in this area. And thanks to the innovation of Zoom, I guess I want to thank the inventors of Zoom to be here. It's snowing, really snowing outside here in Sturgeon Bay, so I don't know if anyone's from outside of the Sturgeon Bay area, but we were going to be at the wonderful gallery on the west side called Artisipation, that is has an amazing space that I was hoping that we could spread out and have more of a workshop concept of today's work. But I think probably best if we just have a conversation, and I'd like to open it up at some point for Q&A, but I think it'd probably be better, since we are on Zoom, to just let me kind of riff, and that's probably what I do best. But if there's anybody there that wants to write something in the chat, and Jared or Morgan, if you'd like to let me know and read a question or something, if it's pertinent, you think, to the moment, I'm happy to break whatever I'm blabbing about and take it from there. I've been a songwriter all my life. I think I came out singing and making up words and the sound, the resonance of word with melody. So I think that to me is where I began to put my process of writing into lyrical content. I also had a family with a really solid record collection, and was listening to lots and lots of music that inspired me. And the idea of singing, also of my certain age, I grew up in the civil rights movement and Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell, where I learned that, you know, you could not only write about a breakup, but the environment. Remember Big Yellow Taxi? Don't it always seem to go? That one. But as a writer, I just, I think as a young writer, if I didn't have my guitar to strum along and feel like I was being a Joan Baez, or thinking about how to save the world through music, because that just seemed to be my calling. I had a great 5th grade teacher who inspired us, the class, to write songs a la Dylan. And that was a lot to put on a fifth grader. But it really did open my mind that through music, I could reach into a world that would calm my soul in a way. And then to know that songs were popular, and it just was something that I just felt that I needed to do. I always journaled. And I think that putting some of that teenage angst into song is where I came from. I also lived in France, as Jared mentioned, and when I was there learning the French language, I was also at the time I was 30, so I'd already been performing and writing songs for quite some time, and I got hooked into a group of individuals that were looking for English words for French-speaking artists, and they wanted to have English words. So what I also learned was how to make a English word sound okay in the mouth of a French person that might have a very hard accent. And it's just the way it is. Like words like motivation or anticipation were much easier to write in a song than words like that or anything that's TH. So otherwise it would end up sounding like that. And so it's part of the songwriting for me is the cleverness of it. It's trying to reach in and find a space. I'm a little bit OCD, and I like things like Tetris, and I like putting things in their proper space. So for me, songwriting really did that. So that's a little bit of my background in terms of, just writing. As someone who likes to write, I do more of a, how should I say, a sketch of something. We'll get into that as the next hour goes on. But for me as a songwriter, I take inspiration. So for all those of you out there that are looking to develop your songwriting skills or to just come up with a new way to get unstuck, I would say is make sure that you're writing everything down. I'm not sure if anyone caught Michael Perry's chat yesterday. I highly recommend it. If you didn't, you can always find it on Door County Reads on their Facebook page and go back and watch it. But his process is amazing. And at one point he had like a Post-it sticky thing and talking about snow in a tunnel, like, and when you find something that somebody says, I try to be a little bit I'm clever about writing things down. And if someone's in the middle of talking, I don't want to say, oh, hold on a second, I got to write this idea down, but I try to keep it in my head. I've got lots and lots of books. I have one of these in my car. I'm always like taking this out and kind of scribbling. I'm the only one that really can read this stuff because I'm driving and I'm not supposed to keep my eyes off the road. So, but that's one thing that I do. Also, the phone is another place where I take my inspirations and I'll just quickly chat it into my phone or use there's a notebook in my iPhone that I can write things down. So I do that. But songwriting for me is a way of just taking words and putting them into flight because you're putting them to melody. And I think that a lot of times people write songs, especially when you're a beginning songwriter, you tend to write very rhymey kind of things. And I urge you to get away from that really hard rhyming scheme, find a different way to say the same thing. I was having an interesting conversation with my mom today. She's 88 and a retired English teacher, and she's in the middle of writing her memoir. And there's a phrase, a sentence in her that she's talking about when my brother's friends moved in with him, and then when they moved out and his wife moved in when he got married. And she had a friend of hers that was suggesting that the word changed from moved in to lodged. So then my mom and I had this whole conversation about what's the better way to say moved in. And now, granted, this was in sentence structure in a memoir, but I think in songwriting, you could do the same thing. Take that. Are you really saying that they moved in, or are you saying that they roomed? And also, if you're a songwriter, not just a poet, but you are taking a word and putting melody to it, you want to make sure that it doesn't sound really clunky. So like lodged is a really hard word for me to sing if I were to put that in a song. So I might say roomed, because roomed I can go with smooth, or I could change a whole other sense and make it about feelings, because that's what songwriting really is all about. It's taking that story and condensing it way down into feeling. And so it's an interesting exercise, but if you're a beginning songwriter, if you've been writing songs for years and years, I highly recommend the exercise of just going back to some of your songs and not being afraid to tear them apart a little bit. Because, you know, in the end, you've already written it, so it's not going anywhere. I'm just thinking about as a teenager, I was definitely obsessed with the Joni Mitchell world and style, not only the way she wrote songs and how poetic and how jazzy they were, but the pushback of the world when she supposedly moved from being this folky writer into being more in the, we would say even a bebop-ish way. And her prose in her songs became really deep, and like Hissing of Summer Lawns or Chalk Mark in a Rainstorm. And gosh, I haven't thought of these songs in a long time, but she did an album in the 70s called Miles of Isles. And it was a live, it was just a live album. And I've been to Miles of Isles, the tour, multiple times. And one of the things that she said in her show is people are just hurling up, you know, like, you got to play Clouds, you got to play, you know, Big Yellow Taxi, you've got to play any of her famous hits. And she just said, man, nobody ever said Paint a Starry Night Again to the Van Gogh. But in some ways, isn't that what we're trying to do, is paint that starry night again and again and again and again with songwriting? And so I was very much inspired by Joni Mitchell taking the next level. And we like what we know, and we get confused when something is very particular. If you want to talk about art, like Picasso, I mean, he was such a formidable painter before he even got into the Cubism. So it's living a creative life is an honor. And I think that we overthink our creativity sometimes, like it's got, especially in a commercial world that we're living in today, and especially in the American Idol, America's Got Talent voice. Why not just write to write? And if you're a poet and you're trying to shift into putting poetry to music, sing it. And if you have already put music to lyrics to music, find a different way of saying it. For me, it's repeat, repeat, repeat. I don't mind repeating lines. I know it as a young adolescent, it drove my family crazy to hear me playing things over and over again. But I like having my studio where I can make as much music and loud sounds and repetitiveness as I want. But I do highly recommend that that's some of the things. Yeah, songwriting is just a truncated way of looking at a story, and it's just taking that feeling and putting it words and putting into feeling and adding in chords. And but I am like a dog with a bone about editing, and probably why I really liked when we moved into the YouTube world and video editing. But it is essential to songwriting, because I think without proper editing, you end up finding yourselves in, you almost sing yourself into a corner. Another tip that I'd like to say for anybody looking for songwriting tips would be who are your favorite artists? Like I was just talking about Joni Mitchell, but since then, that I was talking back to the 70s. Since then, there's been so many other artists. But to find an artist that you really, really like and find out why. What is it? Is it a character in the voice? So if you're a singer-songwriter, use your voice to find your expression. And if you're just writing a song to be able to give to somebody else, then I would also say, think about those artists that you really like. I've been talking a lot about the writing part of words, and in a little bit, I'll get into more of the musical part, the structural part, the chordal part, because there's genre. Like in particular time that I'm in right now, I'm writing a lot of blues, and those have particular chordal structures. And what that really comes down to is discipline. And I think that discipline is freedom. I mentioned before about Picasso. I think if you have the discipline to really dig into what it is you're trying to create or convey, even if you have the ability to draw an actual image that looks exactly like you would see it with the naked eye, to be able to then take it and say, how can I distort this? How do you know how to distort it if you haven't started first with how to make it what it is? And I think that's the same thing I try to do in songwriting. And I also have my own style. What I write for myself is not at all what I would necessarily write for somebody else. I talked about writing when I was in France. I wrote for an artist named Indra, and she was a Swedish pop, almost you could call disco singer. And she wanted rap. Rap was very popular in the 90s, and I'd never written rap before in my life. So I dug into listening to a lot of different rap artists, and I really understood that rap is a form of folk music. It's expressing a style of the people. And then there's this beautiful cadence that goes with it. So it's rhythm, and instead of singing per se. I really enjoyed that process. I also, as I said earlier, trying to find words that would fit in the mouth of somebody that doesn't have an English accent or an American accent. I also adapted some French music, French lyrics and Spanish lyrics, although I'm very bad at Spanish, but my French is pretty good. I was beginning to understand the idioms of French. And that difference is really important when you're adapting from the one language to another. Michael Perry talked yesterday about adapting his book, Population 485, to a screenplay or a script for a play. And that had to have taken quite a bit, because you can't take you can't read that many pages in an hour-and-a-half show. So I'm curious to see Population 485, since now that I've read the book. I also have to say that in terms of inspiration, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna riff here, because I really, it's so strange not to have you like in my physical space. But hi everybody. When I was reading Population 485, I did write down some things, and I found him to be incredibly lyrical. Like if I were to take some of his words and turn them into songs, he wrote a line, "The train doesn't stop here anymore." He's talking about his town. Or there's always something coming and going. So putting those two things together, I could totally see that in a song lyric, talking about a young girl being killed in a car accident, which is very, very tragic. And he wrote this line, "Terribly alone in a beautiful, beautiful world." These are words that sing really, really well. I tend to pick up my guitar or a keyboard and come up with a melody line. But in this particular case, if I had this line first, I might think of that. What does that sound like in my head? He had another line that said, "To the ghosts of this land, we add another ghost." it's so poetic. He's definitely a Wisconsin treasure, and I'm just thrilled that Door County Reads chose his books to share with the rest of us. And if you haven't read Population 485, you should. I was amazed to know what has happened for the 20 years since he wrote that. But songwriting melody is an incredible nuance, and the melody can get you stuck and the melody can get you unstuck. I particularly really like using licks, and I'm gonna take a second and switch over to my guitar. Because I think that it's appropriate to, since we're talking about songwriting, for me to add in a little bit here. I hope we can get a little bit. I like to write licks. So that is a particular song, my song Get Me Away, that I wrote that first. So in the blues style, and that sometimes that's how I get unstuck. I had this idea, probably played this for hours. And then at some point I said to myself, what am I trying to say? And the other part of songwriting, I think, is write like you're speaking. Some of the best songs, if you go and deconstruct your favorite songs, it sounds like somebody is just speaking to you. And a lot of the lines that I put in my music could be something that was lifted right out of a Michael Perry story, or maybe a friend on the phone said something like, tell me, do you really think that you love me? And there you go. And then there's that line. Now, what am I trying to say? I sketch it out. And in so sketching it out, I have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I also like the idea of putting the musical structure of a bridge, which I'll get to in a minute. But I think when you're writing is you want to write, is it a person that you're writing about? In that particular one, that was a person. Is it a place? Is it your home? Is it your, are you longing for country roads, take me back to that place I belong? We could think about those. Wouldn't you just hear him just saying that, country road, take me back to that place where I belong? I know you're saying the next line in your head. So a person, a place, a thing. I wrote a song about the sad loss of my dog, Etta, and I had to kind of work through the grief. And when I grieve, when I'm happy, I go to my guitar. And I found that to be a very, very helpful thing. How do you write about a dog without it sounding trite? And so I just came up with a song about and it was a holiday song because I lost her right before the holidays. So it's the holidays and we've got so much to be thankful for. And why am I doing that? Because I'm not really thankful, because I'm sad. So how do you convey all that? And also in the fact that it was a holiday song, when it's cold outside and the snow is falling, Christmas time and my friends are calling, everyone's out for holiday cheer, well, the blues keeps me in here. So that was how I took my sadness and I put it in a place. So songwriting, person, place, thing. Maybe you're just like, if you remember dropping a needle down on a vinyl record, if you just want to go, this is how I feel right now, I'm just going to write right now. I'm talking about the blues. Gonna sing for you. I'm gonna sing for you on this snowy day. Got to make sure that when I rhyme with day, it's not going to sound stupid, but Door County breeze gonna take my cares away. I love just making up things. Write about a breakup, write about a sunset, write about the ice flow. Yeah, I was talking about folk before. There's so many different styles. Folk is probably one of the easier ones to just, have your chords, major, minor chords. These are things that come to mind. If you're writing happy or you're writing sad, happier tend to be more of a major, sad you're going to be more minor. Doesn't it sound moody? Opposed to, that sounds like here comes the sun. I'm down and out. I got a good life. Yeah, so that's where you could find yourself in it's a gumbo. I think about songwriting as cooking. I'm not that person that likes to crack open a recipe book and follow all the ingredients and follow it to the letter. I'm terrible that way, but I love to read recipes. And when you read recipes, you can come up with ideas. And collaborating in songwriting has a lot to do with sharing those ingredients. Like, what do you got? Well, I like it spicy. Well, I don't like it spicy. So those kinds of things. Jared had mentioned that I moved here in 2016 from New York City, actually, where I'd been singing in the subway of the city for many, many, many years, because that was just an important thing for me to do, giving back. To be able to perform in public spaces was something that just grew on me. And I think that when you perform in public spaces, you learn a lot from your environment. But I learned about the Holiday Music Motel right here in Sturgeon Bay and the songwriting events that they have 3 times a year. Sadly, because of COVID, it's been on hiatus, but really looking forward to getting back to that in some semblance. But for many years, I would meet in the hotel for a week with artists from all over the country, and we would collaborate on writing songs. In June, it has to have bridge. So bridge could be the metaphorical, I'm looking this way because it's right there, a metaphorical bridge. It could be the word bridge. And there's never, ever a loss at finding a way to write a song with the word or the sentiment of bridge. No matter how many times you could think of it. Try, for you songwriters, use that as an exercise. Write a song with bridge, about a bridge, or the feeling of a bridge. And through collaborating, you also learn something about somebody else's style and also their way of digging into something. They might say, oh, that I would say that a little differently, or I'm not really into the blues. I really want to write, more kind of more of a rock kind of feeling. So I always use the songwriting weeks at the Holiday Music Motel as servicing the song, and is an amazing exercise to come up with songs that I might not necessarily have written. And there is power in that. That's another tip I would put out is, why not collaborate? If you are really strong in lyrics and you have a friend that writes music, work together. Think about some of those really great McCartney Lennon songs, or Bernie Taupin, Elton John. Of course, on their own, they did some brilliant songs, but there is something about those partnering that we think of. We've got huge of Broadway writers, and some of the best musicals were written by somebody that wrote the lyrics and somebody that wrote the music, the book writer, etc. So I don't know if I'm just blabbing on here, if anyone had a question that you want to throw out to me, but I'm going to keep talking for a little while, and I'm going to play you some songs, but I would definitely look into some of your favorite songwriters and why. Try to write a copy of a song that you really, really love, deconstruct it, figure out those chords. I learn a lot from learning chords of other artists or other songs that I really, really like. I don't know if you have a muse. Write about your cat or your dog. Write about your friends. Write about art. Art, ekphrasis. That's an amazing word. Jared, we can talk about that all day long. A lot of my songs are written through the Love on Holiday, which is a February event at the Holiday Music Motel. 4 of my songs on my album are songs that were written and inspired by artwork.
So Darlene had a question. Do you tend to write lyrics or instrumentals first?
That is a great question, Darlene. Thank you very much. It is a question that I have asked multiple times to people, and I love that you've turned it on me. So I write both. I'm writing all the time. I journal every day. I have books and books and books of things like, you know, I just read you some of the little quotes that I got out of Michael's book. So if I'm working on possibly putting together something like that, I'll look at the lyrics and I'll say, what does that musically make me feel? But then the other day I was just coming up with, just came up with that. So there's a little musical lick that I'm going to be writing some music to, some lyrics to. So yeah, it's a great question. But for me personally, I write both.
If you have any other questions, you can pop them in the chat, or Cathy, did you want me to open it up so everyone can talk if you would like that? Or
how does it feel to you? I as you can tell, I love to talk, and I love to talk about songwriting. I mean, yesterday Michael said something like how humbled he was. He wasn't talking about a Pulitzer. He was talking about that he ended up seeing his book cover on a float in a Cheese Day parade. And I was thinking, oh, that could be just such a great song, you know, a float in a Cheese Day parade, and his Post-it notes, and yeah, I mean, I'm, you know, my process is my process, and I would say that your process should be the same, but I also urge you to have discipline, as I said before, about what song structure is. So I could get into that a little bit because I haven't really talked about so much of that. Also, like Thesaurus is like your best friend. I have it in a book form, but we can find them on our cell phones or on the internet at any given time. Thesaurus is find a word, make it better. What's a better way of saying it instead of coming up with some really clunky rhyme? Thesaurus, a dictionary. We're living in such an amazing time here. A headline on a story. What does that sound like? I have a rhyming dictionary, which is different than the thesaurus. So it just kind of gives you a list and lists of rhymes if I'm really, really stuck. And another thought is haiku. Have you written haiku, which is 5, 7, 5 syllables? Come up with the haiku and then try to put music to it. But songwriting is an exercise of taking prose, I think, and turning it into a feeling. And that's where, like, for example, that sounds pretty happy, right? But then I was thinking, what if I turned it into more of a climate change sort of thing, and I the ice is melting and the fires are burning, and I feel a problem coming. The world is turning, and so I'll work with that, and then dig around with that and say, is that really what I want to say? Who knows where this song will be in a week from now, everybody. Sketch it out. What is your story? And then if you look at it that way, you might say, oh, that's kind of thin, and make it deeper, you know, that adapt a story, a film that you just saw, and turn it into a song. So, and try, if you write songs specifically like on the guitar, obviously if you're a singer-songwriter, you're going to be trying to sing in your key, but try to change your keys around. Make sure that you're not always playing those same 3 chords. And if you are, make sure that your melody isn't sounding the same as the last song that you just wrote. I try not to have my songs sound like songs I've written, but I have many, many that are in a particular style. So, and if you have a vocal limit, ask a friend to sing for you. That's kind of how I'm feeling. Any other questions you want to throw out? Oh, I'm happy to open it up to questioning.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Cathy, I know that obviously blues is your main thing. When you're writing and do things just automatically fall into a blues format for you? And do you have to really exercise yourself to get out of a blues format?
That is a fabulous question. Actually, no. I force myself into the blues category. And the reason why I do is because I'm living in a time where if I'm too eclectic, this is probably going to sound very, very harsh on myself, but if I get too eclectic, I water down what I am as an artist, and then the industry isn't really sure who I am. So I'm trying right now to really stick to this genre of blues. I can't wait to get to that next level of national, international knowledge of me and an artist to not be able to care. But at this point, that is where I have to go. I'm going to the International Blues Challenge in May, and I want to feel that blues. So I'm pretty much surrounding myself with blues songs, blues ideas. It's hard for me to stick in a blues genre because I throw in these weird, you know, I throw in like, that's not really blues, you know, or, you know, those are really jazzy. So right now I might throw in a little bit, but I want to be a songwriter for songwriting's sake. So I don't mind right now, this particular time of my life, to take that dramatic turn and just go into in the blues genre. Plus, I love the blues. Blues to me is really who I am as an artist. Maybe the industry doesn't think of that because of the fact I throw in those chords that I was just playing. The blues artists that play with me, they're like, oh, we had a jam the other night. And it's like, oh, let me play that song. And suddenly I'm realizing I can't, it's not just 1, 4, 5. A typical blues pattern would be like, here's key of A. That's A. That's the 1. And then go to D, which is the 4. And then E is the 5. Very typical in rock and roll. Think about, you know, all those rock songs. But my songs don't go there. They tend to jump off and like go off road, and I get musicians that are like, wait, that you didn't go to the 4. It's like, no. Did that help?
It does. I know you're familiar with some of my attempts at songwriting, and things are coming out too often sounding the same. And so I'm struggling a little with that and forcing myself into strange chords and progressions from Pachelbel, you know. So anyway, thank you.
You're welcome. I am very much aware of you moving from just writing brilliant poetry into how do you transcend that into adding to music, and it's not as easy as one would think, because you're adding the syllabic cadence and all those feet. You know, you can't, it's so easy in a poetry to just free form, unless you're, again, writing like haiku, but even haiku is hard to sing if you're hitting it on the wrong rhythmic place. You don't want hard things. I talked earlier about lodge. Lodge would be a really hard song. I'm lodge, Where do you end with that? Now, maybe lodge in the middle of a phrase, but not ending the phrase. And sometimes we tend to want to do rhyme schemes that get a little pedantic after a while. So it's how do you break out of that? There's also, for me as a social activist and as a feminist, there's a lot in the blues world. There's just a lot of misogyny. And the lyrics are just, I can't believe how many songs that we love and we sing along to. And then we go, if I really took it apart, why am I singing this song? B.B. King has a very famous song about, you don't go out when I'm not home. And I don't care if it's the doctor. I don't care if it's your mother. I don't care if it's your sister. You just suffer. You stay home and suffer until I get home. It's like, oh. So I tried to make sure that especially in my social conscious songs that I'm a little bit more aware, but they can come across as being preachy. It's a careful line to take that allows somebody to say, I could take that or leave it. I mean, my song, I'm All Burned, there's the art piece right there, B. Bosch. Love on Holiday, 2018, maybe. He had this piece and it's these amazing, you see the dots, but it's this amazing art piece of graphic, basically comics in the 40s, and it's very misogynistic. It's the images of women and it's a bikini coming down and she says, I'm all burnt, but he cut the T off. And I saw that in my two young male songwriter collaborators, Michael McKinnon and Matt Spottle. I said, this is the time of the Me Too generation, and I'm feeling it's very visceral for me. And so we started talking, and then I came up with this kind of rhythm and blues song rhythmically. And then it's, how are we teaching young boys that the age of womanizing is through? Now that's a hard word to sing, womanizing. So how to put that together, and then how to come up with the lick, the chorus. It's funny how sometimes it just come together so fast, because it's to honor a woman, you can't keep making her in an image that's simply untrue. So I was just taken from that. It's not the image that we weren't drawn that way, like a comic book dame. We got hips and curves, but we got brains. I've been through the fire for so long, tired of proving. Now, how do you rhyme with that? I've been waiting too long for my turn. There it is. When doors open, I learn. So I rhyme with turn. I'm all burned. I'm all burned. So that's how that sort of came around. And then one of the things we didn't talk about earlier is writing that bridge. The bridge is really an important part in songwriting, to take the listener away from the storyline and resolve very quickly kind of this, what am I really trying to say? And you take them to a different musical place. So in I'm All Burned, and I meant minor. Fear is a powerful tool, and little girls learn it since when they're in school. All right, tool school. Who stands up when they're confused and crying? It just asks to say objectifying. Objectifying. So, and that little bridge just was able to bring in a little bit of a background. And I love bridge writing. I know a lot of songwriters don't write bridges at all, but maybe it's a little bit of my pop upbringing of songwriting, like Carole King and James Taylor and all the classics. They're always writing that that's that. I almost want to call it an epilogue. It's like something that brings you in and says, in a very short period of time, what is it? And I love that they call it a bridge, because you're going from a musical idea, you're separating yourself from this and you're taking the listener to another place, and then you're bringing them back again. Just like, right, I'm going to take you right back into the bridge. And especially if you know, in this particular case, just deconstructing I'm all burn. So it's, fear is a powerful tool, and little girls learn it since when they're in school. Who stands up when they're confused and crying? I build it so sick and tired of objectifying. Right to the hook, which is the chorus. I've been through the fire for so long. I'm tired of proving. I've been waiting too long for my turn. When doors open, I learn. I'm all burned. And that's the other thing in a song, is repeating it. I'm all burned. I'm all burned. I'm all burned, 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 burned. I'm all burned. I'm all burned. Can't really do that when you're writing prose, you know, burn, 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 burn. So I just, in my head, I was thinking, to everything turn, 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 there is a season, and all these things. There are no new ideas. It's just new perspectives. There's no new songs, really. It's just all, it's all been done before. It's how you take it and make it your own. Now, this song was written with Michael McKinnon and Matt Spottle, and I couldn't at this one moment tell you exactly the moment that they put in their beautiful juju into it. But it was like, no, let's go to the bridge sooner, or let's make this be a little bit more about why. Why are you singing about this? What are you trying to change? Quite a few people wanted to change the first line, and they were behind me on it. And it's in the first line of the song is how are we teaching young boys that the age of womanizing is through? So to me, that was the point. It's, well, clearly we're not doing a very good job if it's still persisting. So, you know, somebody wanted to say, why don't you sing why? Well, I didn't even think I could sing why are we teaching young boys? And then it would be, why aren't we? If I'm trying to say the same thing. So this is the Tetris part to me in songwriting that I find so wonderful, is to be able to take it apart. Yeah, take it apart, and when you're stuck, take an image and try to write a song to it. So, Ralph, back to your point about your songs, is you're trying to sing them also. And I think that's where you probably get stuck, is trying to find your voice that makes it so that you feel comfortable. So I think of composers that don't write for their voice. I particularly write for my voice. So of course, like earlier, I was doing Get Me Away. That's my voice. Tell me, do you really think that you love me? That sort of thing. Are there, do we want to do a few more questions? And as you can see, I could talk about this all day. Yeah.
So you can unmute if you have any questions that is available to you.
Okay, it's me again. I was wondering, let's say you mentioned the last gentleman writing exquisite poetry. So let's say you have that exquisite poem and you might have an exquisite instrumental to go to that. So how do you make sure that one doesn't dilute the other when you try and put them together?
Oh, that's fabulous. That is so true. It is Tetris. It is playing this delicate balance. And I think what the most important thing is, were you the one that asked what comes first, the lyrics or the music?
I did.
Yes. So I think that the point of the lyrics first is that's really what you want to say. The music first is that I really like this musical line and I am going to do my best to fit that great line into it. But guess what? I'm going to have to change the whole line. And it's no longer that brilliant poetry that I liked on its own, but together they, and I wish I had sort of planned an exercise in this. I'm scrolling through my Rolodex brain of a song where that was the case. I think what it is taking a line and starting to, you're in a hot air balloon and you got to start throwing stuff off the side to fly. And that is that sentence that you just made that is so beautiful. And yet, how can you say it slightly different? Here, let me see if I can.
And then you feel like you're throwing something away at the
But
same
you're
time.
throwing away, maybe you're just throwing away a preposition that's really not important. Maybe you're throwing away an adjective for an adverb or something that's going to make it a little bit more spicy. Like, can you say it like maybe not in a sentence? Like, can you just say blue and have the music take it?
That's exactly, I started taking guitar again at 70. And I'm 72 now, but at 70, and I have this amazing instructor. I haven't been back for a little bit, but I had something, and he goes, you know, this isn't an English assignment. And he had me dropping things and experimenting with it. And it was like doing surgery, you know, literary surgery. It was like, but I can't, but, you know, after a few times, because he was also working with me on writing some songs. So.
That is a great exercise. Take your song that you're writing, and if you're starting with a poem, write a paragraph what the poem means to you. What's your takeaway, and write it in a story form. And then it's sort of like a praxis where you're taking an art piece and you're inspired by the art. So you're going to take your poem and you're now going to write not necessarily a synopsis, a story, one paragraph story, what that poem is. Now from that, deconstruct it and turn it into a song. If you've got that great melody line, you know, so, you know, I'm thinking about, I wrote a song from another artist, a photographer named Stephen Wolter. And he has this picture, and Morgan, I'm not so sure that I figured out how to share my screen again, but I'm gonna try to see in a minute if I can find, bear with me while I'm scrolling through my I think what I'm trying to do is find images to share with you. And here we go. Let's see. I think, oh, I will be so happy with myself if I manage to do this right. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, here it is. Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, you can see this. And can you still see me over here?
Yes, we can.
This is the story I wrote. The bike. My mother told me, go find your brother, but my brother not to be found. I was distracted by the idea and desire. All I wanted was to ride into town. I knew I shouldn't. I knew there'd be consequences as yet unknown to me, but there was that bicycle and it called me. And so I had to take it on a ride. My nerves were steady, my balance graceful, so I pedaled as fast as I knew how. My feet just reached the pedals and I pushed hard to get it right. If I'm not mistaken, it was my first act of defiance and a bit of nerves like steel. There is a moral found in the story and a little wisdom to be found. If you want to see a girl turn fierce and graceful, leave a bicycle lying on the ground. So if you look close, I just read that. I wrote that out. That is the original inspiration when I saw that photo and I said, I'm going to write a song about this. So what I did was I just wrote. Now, how do I make a song out of that? There was a couple of lines that I said, ooh, I like that. And I'm going to switch guitars right now. I'm going to unshare my screen and let's see, stop share. I'm getting good at this. Thank you. I don't know, that was really kind of facetious, but you know. So back to the.
Very smooth.
Oh, thank you, Morgan. Appreciate that. So back to the songwriting aspect of it, and Ralph, I think you'll appreciate this too, is what I also did was move away from the guitar. Sometimes I do write on the piano. I'm a very poor piano player, but I do like it as a writing. But this is in the key of G. So this is G, D, G, B. So this is automatically going to get me in a key that I don't usually write in. And I love that because it forced me out of my typical D flat, E, A. So if you remember a little bit of that story, this is how I grabbed. I'm gonna play it, and then I'm gonna go back and deconstruct it a little bit. And Ralph, I know you like the slide, so. And yes, it is a cigar box. I took the first line. I liked the first line. I didn't change a thing. I'm reading it. My mother told me, go find your brother. My mother told me, go find your brother, but my brother nowhere to be found. I didn't listen, I was distracted, saw his bicycle lying on the ground. I knew I shouldn't, but I took it, begging me to take a ride. My nerves were steady, my balance graceful, with the wind at my side. And consequences left for the future, act of rebellion, no surprise. But if you saw me, you'd sense that moment with a sparkle in your eyes. If there's a moral to the story, a little brilliance to be found, to see your sister rise to glory, just leave your bicycle lying on the ground. I cut out a lot of words. I cut out a lot. I kept that line. My mother told me, go find your brother, but my brother not to be found. So nowhere sounded way better to sing. Nowhere to be found. Da, ba, 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 ba. Whereas, but my brother not to be found. It sounds pretty clunky. Now, what did I come up with first? The melody happened because, again, this is this wonderful instrument, and the instrument is limited. There's 4 strings, and I was using the slide, and I was thinking of it more of an old blues style. So that's why it was da 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 da. It sounds pretty boring when you look at it that way. Da 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 da. But once I had that rhythmic pattern, now I have to make all the syllables work with that. So sometimes certain words like not to be found doesn't work. I needed a da da. So nowhere. So years and years of writing, this is where my brain just go, oh, I could just go nowhere to be found. It's another way of saying not to be. And all I wanted was to ride into town is what I wrote. So, and I wrote, I really didn't listen. I was distracted. I really didn't listen. I was distracted. So I just cut out. I didn't listen. I was distracted. Now suddenly the song is starting to write itself right from the words that I've written here. And it's all about cutting and getting rid of it. But I have this sketch. So that's part of my process. I don't always write this way, but in this particular case, I was writing for that picture. So I just wrote everything that picture inspired me first. And then all I wanted was to ride into town. I just cut that out. That's not important. We don't need the specifics of that. I didn't listen. I was distracted. And so I went right to, I knew I shouldn't, because that really wasn't what my mother asked me to. She asked me to find my brother, not to grab his bicycle. And I knew there'd be consequences as yet unknown to me. So I took that and I said, I know I shouldn't, but I took it. And then I wanted that bike to tell me something. Lily just came in to say hi. You see her tail. Hi, Lily. I knew I shouldn't, but I took it, begging me to take a ride. It was begging me, or I worked on that so many times. Sometimes I change it. I don't say begging, asking me, enticing me. When I play live, sometimes another thing comes out of my head and I'm like, oh, okay. And that's okay. It's live. So I don't find those things so precious. There are some songwriters that if you change a but to a some, some does not a but make, or so, or those are very specific. I'm not that writer. Personally, I change my songs all the time. So it's funny, and I'm trying to remember the lines. I knew I shouldn't. The next line was, I knew there'd be consequences as yet unknown to me, but there was this bicycle and it called to me. Well, I needed to go da 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 da. So I knew I shouldn't, but I took it, begging me to take a ride. And then it says, I wrote that, and so I had to take a ride. My nerves were steady, my balance graceful. Perfect. My nerves were steady, my balance graceful. I mean, I write it out sometimes with the little marks, like the syllables, like dot, dot, like a Morse code. And then I can sometimes do that over a line and say, well, that's not going to fit. How do I make that work? So then the next line, so I pedaled as fast as I knew how. My feet just reached the pedals. That was because I was looking at that beautiful picture of a little girl where her feet barely reached. And I pushed hard to get it right. If I'm not mistaken, it was my first act of defiance. So that was a lot. Now, how do I say that a little bit differently? So I wrote, my nerves were steady, my balance graceful, and with the wind at my side. And I changed the cadence. I was looking for something a little differently there. So my nerves were steady, my balance graceful, with the wind at my side. So the idea musically, I was trying to take the action of I'm on the bike now, and now the wind is pushing me, and the wind is at my side, meaning, so now we're feeling that movement. And so this is interesting. I hadn't planned on deconstructing the song. Is this going cool for you guys? Okay, so now I'm at the side, at the wind at my side. So why don't I do a musical interlude? Let's feel that bike. And that's where I go. So in a couple of bars, I'm feeling this feeling. And it gives the listener an opportunity to just say, oh, it doesn't have to always be words. And this is where that editing part you're talking about is really important. Maybe what you're really trying to say in that line is not written at all. So I cut out all that stuff about my feet and the pedals. I made that part be about the music. And then in a live version, I even go. So even more, so you're getting that feeling of this little girl on a bicycle. And if you didn't see, you don't have to see this picture. I started up. My mother told me go find my brother, and my brother was nowhere to be found. I didn't listen. I was distracted. I saw his bicycle lying on the ground. I knew I shouldn't, but I took it, begging me to take a ride. My nerves were steady, my balance graceful with the wind at my side. And that just took me probably a couple of hours to just, just potato peeler to this whole thing and chisel it out. And then now I'm at the other side, and it's kind of like a bridge, but not. It almost gets to if you were watching me, what is somebody watching? Because this is a photo we're looking at. So we're voyeuristically looking at this moment that Stephen explained when he took this picture in a little village in Brazil called Pitupita. And he said, I've been traveling the world as a photographer, and I've taken thousands and thousands of images. And suddenly I hear this whir, and I turn, and it was just one click. That was it. He never had a chance to take more than that one click. And that was his version of this song in a way. So I'm coming to the closure of this very short song that's taking 15 minutes to explain, but it's kind of cool. A wind at my side. Now, what I wrote here was, if there is a moral found in the story and a little wisdom to be found, if you want to see a girl turn fierce and graceful, leave a bicycle lying on the ground. What I wrote was, and consequences left for the future, act of rebellion, no surprise. Whoops, I messed it up. That's earlier. See, this is what I get for deconstructing my own song. I might have to go back a little further. And consequences left for the future. Uh-oh, I'm gonna have to get my lyric book out. This is funny. Oh, it was bound to happen. It was bound to happen with my brain. But let's see. Oh no, it is that. That is that. I already sang that. Sorry. That's why I was getting stuck. I'll do it. So and consequences left for the future, act of rebellion, no surprise. And if you saw me, you'd sense that moment with a sparkle in your eyes. So the point is, I'm bringing the viewer into this story, and you'd be like, wow, I just saw this little girl flying by, and you'd have a sparkle in your eyes. That line took me a while to come up with. And then it was this moral part. And this is what I want to share is I wrote, there's a moral found in this story and a little wisdom to be found. If you want to see a girl turn fierce and graceful, leave a bicycle lying on the ground. And this is how it ends up. If there's a moral to this story, a little brilliance to be found, to see your sister rise to glory, just leave your bicycle lying on the ground. Hear the difference of saying if you want to see a girl turn fierce and graceful. It's a cool line. I like that line a lot. But my dear new fabulous friend Pat McDonald, who is a brilliant songwriter, I played it for him, and because it was all part of the Love on Holiday event, and he said, well, you might want to say see your sister. And I thought, oh. And then he said, you've got story. Why not rise to glory? And it was like, it just came like I had versions where I was rhyming story, and I just didn't like how glory sounded until I changed it to sister, store. And those are those little subtle things that really do take time to just go, oh, to see your sister rise to glory, just leave your bicycle lying on the ground. So that's my deconstructing my own song that was inspired through ekphrasis I can't even say it very well, but it's a brilliant word. I and my album that Jared was talking about, I actually did a booklet, and the 4 of the songs that are on this album are, I had to share just the fact that they were inspired by pieces of artwork. And if you've ever been stuck, that's what you need to do. Just go straight to that. And then I found this great designer, Ray Senaregi, and I love the album Harvest by Neil Young, and I wanted to be an homage to that. And he took this and created this, so that's another version of from there to the song to here. So that's my story about Cathy's Bike Song. And I named it Cathy's Bike Song because I do have my own family legend that when I was a little girl, my mother did ask me to go find my brother, and I got on my tricycle and I rode into town, and I got in trouble. And it probably was my very first act of defiance that I know of. We got like 15 minutes left. Do you want more questions? You want me to do more music?
If anyone has questions, you can unmute and talk with Cathy or each other, or you can put it into the chat.
It seems like the other moral to the story is that if you're really stuck, go see Pat McDonald.
This is very true. That's one brilliant man. He's definitely a song master. And what I love about it is that he leads you right there. He just doesn't write the song for you. He just says, hey, how do you make this second verse a little better? Are you really trying to say that in your second verse? And that's something that I never really had till I moved here and started collaborating. And the process with the Love and Holidays, Steel Bridge, and Dark Song events are that before the song gets recorded, you present it to Pat, he reviews it, and he has to okay it. And I think that that's a brilliant thing because, you know, we're all there to learn, even if we've been writing for decades. And I love the mix of young and old. And I have seen multiple times him coming in and saying, I just think that you're on the right path, but that second verse, you're saying the same thing in the first verse. So, or your third verse really should be, you know, a little bit more I don't know, reach in a little further. And I love that. It's always good to have someone say, go more. I said this earlier, you could always go back and keep what you had. I mean, I could have kept Fierce and Graceful. I think Fierce and Graceful sounded really great. But Sister Rise to Glory story, to me, you know, it was like taking it from like over here and bringing it right into the bullseye. And for me personally,
I'm sure he's not the only person capable, but I recently wrote a song that there were a couple little spots that I wasn't feeling great about. And I showed those lyrics to Pat without any explanation whatsoever. And he said, why don't you look at this spot and this spot? What about changing this word to that word and this word to that word? And it fixed the whole thing. And yes, he's absolutely brilliant about it, but I'm not one who usually lets people into my writing at all, poetry or songwriting. And I'm finding what a mistake that is for me to not allow someone else in.
That is an incredible kernel of wisdom. When you let somebody in, it's like anybody that writes and tries to be published, the greatest books have the greatest editors. And some of the greatest books without that editor would not be great books. They'd be good books. But I'm sure that Michael Perry has a great editor. And I'm sure that I loved his process. He was showing how he's OCD like me in a way. He had to print up every chapter and he would tape them together and he needed to see them in a line. And I think that that is just brilliant, to be able to slash and burn your own stuff. And sometimes it takes someone coming in, and it takes courage, and it's they're taking your baby and your idea, and oh my, but wow, if it makes it better, you know, throw on a little bit more salt, even though somebody might say, I don't like salt, but the right kind of salt, or the right amount, or the right timing of putting your salt in. I'm all for it. The older I get, the more I love that whole collaborative process. And at some point, you just have to say, if it serves the song, why not? And not feel embarrassed or frustrated. And I think you just said the kernel, which is like, it's not a mistake. It's just, wow, what world opens up by allowing somebody in. And we tend to, in the songwriting world, not look at an editor of songs. And I think that that's what Pat does so well. And I think that as songwriters, we could do better by being that voice and helping out. I'm very passionate about it, as you can probably tell. I'm a creative person in everything I do, basically. So might as well enjoy the process in songwriting and not be so proprietary. I mean, we're living in a world, we're not making any money on anything anyway, publishing or writing. And so might as well just make it better. Any other questions?
Cathy, if we don't have any questions, would you finish us up with the song?
I would love to. This is a world of pandemic of 2 years of my, doing a lot of performances this way. So, and I am really looking forward to hopefully going to Memphis in May. It was supposed to be in January, and they pushed it to May. So I'm hopeful. Well, while I was at the share screen thing, let me close with another. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, that's the Cathy's Bike song. Uh-oh, Morgan. I think I might have. Let's see. Let's see. Here it is. All right. I'm going to share. So this is a piece by Melissa Clark. I just was zooming in. It's actually a necklace on a bust. So I'm going to zoom. Oh, sorry. I just want you to look at all these things. Troy Therian and Julia McConaughey and I were given this piece to write a song about. And it was like, how do you write a song about a necklace? That's really what it comes down to. So there's a fireman's hammer, there's a forever and a heart, there's a key, there's a glass heart, there's a triangle, there's this piece, there's the chain, there's the glass heart up there. There's a locket. All right, so that is the song. That's the art piece called Forever. And what we ended up writing was Key to My Survival. So we took the key and this is what we came up with. And since I'm already on the cigar box, I might as well, keep with it. Survival was you. And if I put forever on a heart, it'd be true. You step right in and you busted on through. Kept me thinking that the key to my survival was you. The key to my survival. Glass heart, locked too tight. Dark promises brought into light. It's too much for me. Your vulgar chastity. key to my survival was you. The key to my survival. I knew you were callous, you could be crude. I see you're crazy, what messed up, dude, just in time before you take all that's mine. But there's a piece of myself that you can never ever find. It's the key to my survival. I'm free to decide. I'm free, girl. Last time, looking back, we played by your rules. Well, you fooled me 2 times, baby, we're through. Well, there's a piece of myself that you can never find. I gave you my heart, but now I changed my mind. We both know I'm not the nasty one, so you better step aside. It's the key to my survival. I'm free to decide. I'm free again. The key to my survival. It's the key to my survival. I'm free to decide. I'm free, yeah. Step right in and you busted on through. What was I thinking? That the key to my survival was you. Thank you all so much.
Cathy, thank you so much. This was just a wonderful afternoon, and I was writing down lots of things that you said in my notebook. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. And thank you all for being with us. A special thanks to Morgan, who handles all the technical and online events for all of the Door County Reads Festival events. And someday she's going to get to sleep, but not until this is all over. So thank you, Morgan. And I want to thank all of the sponsors and partners of Door County Reads. There are still many more great events coming up during this final week of the festival, including 2 play readings, one tomorrow evening and one Friday evening, a conversation with Wisconsin writers on Tuesday evening, a program with Crossroads at Big Creek on Wednesday, and a presentation by regional and statewide organizations that support Wisconsin writers on Thursday, and finally a performance by the Griffin String Quartet on Saturday. So I hope that you can join us at one or more of those programs and invite friends as far away as they may be to join us for this virtual Door County Reads Festival. Thank you all for being with us.
It's so wonderful. We're so lucky to be here. Reach out to me anytime. info@cathygrier.com.